Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of House Calls the Podcast. This week, Dr. House and I are talking to somebody that he knows really, really well. Ty, how do you pronounce his name? The guy guest?
His name is Michael Ryan House, and we call him Ryan.
Oh, kind of like MR Ducks. He's MR House?
Yes. Do you want to hear the story about how when his pre-K teacher wanted to change his name to Michael?
I do.
Because there was already a Ryan in the class, and we were like, no, we're not changing his name.
I do. Yeah, tell me that whole story.
So the teacher wanted us to change his name to Michael. There's not much to it. We kept him with Ryan, but apparently going by your middle name is a huge hassle that I never thought of.
Hello.
And it's always been difficult for him. His sister's been having difficulty with it as she changed her name when she got married. So it's a trauma.
Well, it is. And as a middle name user, I feel his pain. There's nothing worse when you're sitting in a doctor's office and they call you by your first name and you look at him like, are you talking about my dad? That's me. Sorry.
Yeah, but when your name is Hugh Osgood House II and you go by Ty, which is a nickname for Tiger, I don't have a ton of sympathy for people who go by the middle name.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. So I'm excited to talk to Ryan House, the recently wedded Ryan House. And the other big news from the world of house calls is that the podcast is now available on Apple. We are on the Apple platform, so you can like us there, follow us there, and tell your friends that we are on Apple, and it's easier for everyone to get. And we are still on Spotify and YouTube, but we're just getting the name out there.
We also need you to subscribe, comment, like, share, especially if you like an episode, get it to other people who might be interested in that episode. Help us grow.
Yeah, all the above. It's a team effort here. We need the whole community helping us.
Yep. So the one thing is people might be wondering, why are we having Ryan on?
Yes.
28 years old. Is it because we couldn't get any other guests? But really, I am interested in Ryan. Ryan has graduated from law school and is working in law. But he's also, we are focusing on people with passions. And Ryan has had a lot of passions over the years. Some of them are academic. Now he's passionate about the law. So he's a good example of it. But also, as I was saying before, our last guest was somebody Michael Broomfield was at the end of it. Broomfield was at the end of his career and kind of was in a situation where he started working at age 15 and worked his way up. Ryan is in a career where basically at 28, he's just starting his career because there's so many academic hurdles to get to. So I think it's a nice contrast. Would be interesting for anybody who's interested in law. So we'll see how it goes.
Or even not even interested in law, but just being able to find your passion at some point, early, like Michael and Ryan. I'm excited to talk to Ryan. And after this, that means we've talked to two of your kids. How many kids do you have? I forget. Do we have to talk to all of them?
I have 4 kids. I have a feeling that we'll get them all on eventually, but I do have to tell you that your favorite friend, Carlos Fernandez, and my son, Roddy, and their friend, Bo Whiteford, have dropped Instagram. So if we want them to see our hilarious clips, we have to forward it to them directly.
Interesting. What about Carlos's son, Carlos? Is he still on Instagram?
That's the one I'm talking about.
Wow. Yes. That is interesting. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, we can discuss that with that generation, and let's talk to Ryan and hear what he has to say about all of this, please. And welcome to Ryan House on House Calls the Podcast.
So, Ryan, welcome to the podcast. I wanted to explain something to Matt so he understands the frame of mind that Ryan and I are in. And I do want to touch on the role of stress in your job and your schooling. But Ryan and I have been dealing with somewhat of a family tragedy in that his little sister, Mary Kate, lost a front tooth this week. And it was controversial. As her father, I told her she had to go to work. And she works in patient care, so she's seeing people without a tooth. But Ryan and I are also both survivors of tooth amputations. Mine was somewhat elective and scheduled. Ryan's was immediate and an emergency, but it brought back some maybe difficult memories for us. The family was divided, although Emma thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard of. She was mad that I made Mary Kate go to work without a tooth.
Well, And again, Ty, I can't believe this is yet one more thing that the three of us have in common, because I too, I like to be very authentic and keep it real, but I will tell you that this tooth, not real, not original issue. Yeah, I feel that, and I think it makes the comedy better by making Mary Kate go to work. So I think for our enjoyment, I love that you made her go to work.
So Ryan, how'd
Remember
you lose
though,
your tooth?
yeah, so I lost mine when I was, I don't know, 9 or 10, probably.
I think you were
Maybe older,
7. I think you had
actually.
the tooth for. I think you had the tooth for about a week.
Yeah,
I think
probably
it just
something like.
came
I mean,
in.
it was a new adult tooth. Yeah, I remember when I lost it, I was like shit. This couldn't have happened a couple years ago when it was still a baby tooth, and then it wouldn't have mattered. But basically, what happened is I would always give Roddy, the youngest of the four of us, piggyback rides all the time when he was little. So that's why I think I was probably closer to 9 because he was old enough that he was walking and stuff, and I'm 7 years older than him. But basically, he jumped onto my back when I was just like minding my own business, walking through the living room or something. I didn't know what was happening. He jumps on my back, and he was a big kid, so like that wasn't. I don't know how much he would have weighed, but
I remember that like 105. I think he was like 2 years old at 5.
he jumps on my back. I fall face forward and land on my front tooth, like one of the front left one, and it just cuts in like breaks in half immediately. I don't remember it hurting or anything, but like it was enough of the tooth came off that we were kind of worried. Like, I don't think it was bleeding necessarily, but we were worried that it had hit like the nerve of the tooth. I remember. Generally not great. We put the tooth in milk, and then they didn't reattach
Why?
it because they were like, it's supposed
What?
to like preserve the tooth, I guess, because they were thinking they might be able to reattach it. It didn't
Reattach
work.
it?
So they just basically filled it up with like whatever they fill cavities with, I guess. So I had that.
So wait, so your dad? Wait, let's back up.
Think I don't even think Dad was in the room. Were you?
No, no, I
Yeah,
was working.
yeah.
So
So we
how,
tried to,
with that experience, did you not become a dentist and you decided to become a lawyer? I mean, we got to wind it back.
but I couldn't. So I know dentists now. Basically, is the point of that. But I couldn't look in people's mouths. I don't think I wouldn't have been able
Okay.
to do it.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan, we got a lot to
But
get to. So there goes our whole dental audience.
I have a whole
Ty,
story
thanks
too
for that.
about there was a whole summer where the tooth fell off, and I had a whole summer where they put on this like fake cap that stuck out. So it was very obvious. Like I had a tooth that was just totally poking out in front, and the other one was normal. For I was a counselor, and
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
those are your
summer,
lady slayer. You were
yeah,
putting up numbers with the ladies that summer. I remember
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
I remember that. So Ryan, how long? Let's see. How long have I known you? I'm just trying to do some math.
28.
Okay, there you go. 28 years. And do you remember the first time we met?
I don't. I've seen pictures of probably the first time we met, but I don't remember it.
Well, you still have the same adorable baby face. That's all I really wanted to say. It was in Galveston, Texas. I was given the option of hanging out with you and your mother. You were a newborn, or do rounds with your father. And you were crying, and I decided to do rounds with your father. And I saw that the medical world wasn't for me. I was not that impressed by it. That's a different story for a different time. I'm glad you and I are still friends.
I want to hear what happened on that round because I can't imagine that went very well.
But
So where
here
are
we
you
are now.
now, Ryan, in life and in your career?
Well, in life and career, I graduated law school in 2023, so it's probably about been 2 years now. I think we graduated on May 5th, and it's the 4th today. So, um, yeah, right. Important day to have a podcast on.
Yes.
Um, but I got married in November, November 16th, and I'm currently clerking for. So I live in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh, kind of northwest. I live like 10 minutes from the Ohio border, which I didn't realize until I moved here. So no offense to Ohio, but it's way closer than I thought it was. And I am clerking for a judge up here who's the criminal administrative judge. So I'm a law clerk, which basically just means like I kind of do legal research for a trial judge, write opinions, sit in the courtroom for the more important hearings and like trials. We have a trial coming up tomorrow, so been busy.
Can you give us, I mean, obviously not the particulars, but give us what's the broad strokes of that trial and what did you have to do to prepare?
So it's a rape trial. It's kind of a domestic violence. You might want to put a content warning on this episode just based on my work.
We can
But
edit things.
okay, yeah. So it's a rape trial. It's four trials in one, which this guy was charged with four separate cases basically, and we made a decision before the trial to put them all into one trial because they're kind of all interrelated. It's all one kind of. It's over a series of like 6 months, but it's kind of a continuous series of events. There's some like assault charges, witness intimidation.
I guess my question then, Ryan, is we don't need to get, obviously don't need to get into the particulars, but you see you see a gruesome side of our world, of our society.
Yeah.
What is that like? And how do you deal with that?
Honestly, I mean, I think it's probably worse than people might think it is. I mean, because I don't deal with that like on a day-to-day basis, right? Like
Right.
not every case we have is like a violent crime or a sex crime or something like that. Most of them are just kind of like, a lot of DUIs, kind of petty theft things and kind of stuff like that. So I mean, I do deal with hard stuff. Like I've seen 2 homicide trials and it's definitely not for everybody, I guess. But in the courtroom, it's kind of already, it's a cold record in some ways. Like the murder, right, already happened. I wasn't the one at the scene who found the body and stuff like that. I'm hearing people talk about like I found this body or whatever in trial. Somebody's testifying about that. And I have to see like the autopsy photos of the person and that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like it is hard, but I guess you kind of get used to it pretty quickly. I mean, it's definitely like some of my friends who are lawyers are like, oh, I wouldn't want to go into that. But there's other like family law is kind of harder sometimes, like
Sure.
doing
It's because you
divorces or
see it.
child
I mean, you're
custody.
live and you see the trauma.
So I texted Ryan this week because I had a conversation with a friend of ours who basically he was curious about when somebody's a trial lawyer, you're part of trials or you're the judge or you're the lawyer for one side or the other. And maybe somebody who was guilty gets off and commits another crime, or maybe somebody who wasn't guilty goes to jail. And how do you deal with that in life? And as I started thinking about it, I was like, I wonder if you compared it all to like surgery. Like when I was younger and I was working in trauma centers, if somebody cut their arm off and you're trying to put the arm back on, you're not thinking about the consequences of what life is going to be like with that arm. You're just like, fix the bone, fix the arteries, fix the veins, fix the tendons. Is there a process like that that kind of maintains your sanity?
I mean, I think like working for a judge, because I haven't actually gotten to the point of my career where I'm like the trial attorney, right? Like that's where I want to get to, but I'm not there yet. So from our perspective, like as the court, we're just trying to make sure it's fair, like and both sides are, you know, uh, working within the confines of the law and the rules that we have for how to do trials. I mean, there's definitely I can't really get into. I'm thinking of some specifics that I probably shouldn't get into, but like,
It's kind of muscle memory takes over, right? All of a sudden you're in it and you're just focused on the task at hand, not the other stuff.
and like, we definitely do a lot of preparation, right? Like, we're reading all these cases and we're trying to see, like, previous like case law and stuff, and trying to see, like, okay, this is similar to what we have. How could this play out? We're thinking about like the evidentiary rulings, like if they want to present this text message between two people, is that allowed in? How would we get it in? How would like trying to anticipate like each side's arguments about it. And at the end of the day, a lot of these like bigger cases are decided by a jury anyway. So like we've had like a couple cases where maybe I might disagree with what the jury did, but like we had one case where they found him not guilty on all charges, but then we had to ship that defendant to Allegheny County, which is Pittsburgh, and he had much more serious charges down there. So it wasn't like he got off scot-free kind of thing, regardless of what we thought about it.
So I was asking my question as a father, but also a world famous podcast host. Is that
Mm-hmm.
your plan is to ultimately be on the attorney side of things where you're defending or doing whichever side? Is that something you think about at all, like that pressure? Like, because you haven't done it yet, but you are planning on getting into that world. Do you consider that at all?
I do sometimes. I mean, like, especially since it's been 2 years since I graduated law school, and I started this clerk job part time when I was still in school. So I've been doing it for, I mean, I'm still very young and very early in my career, but I'm starting to think like what I would do in these attorneys' places sometimes, whether it's like, oh yeah, that's a good thing to do, or I would have done it this way or that way. Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, I think it's kind of, you can't, a lot of the most of the important cases are, like I said, decided by juries. So you just have to like represent your side to the best of your ability. And I think on the defense side, it's a lot of just making sure people have a fair shot, even if like you personally are representing somebody that you think is guilty. It's about like making sure that the government is kind of playing by the rules, right? Like we have very important constitutional principles that like I deal with every day at work that I want to make sure people are following, even just in the courtroom, right? Like we have these rights to a jury trial, for instance, or like, a right to not testify. And it goes into a lot like jury selection is always kind of an interesting thing because it's people come in and are telling, kind of, we're asking pretty serious questions, especially in the criminal context of like, okay, can you listen to a trial and accept that like the defendant doesn't have to present any evidence and you still have to decide whether the Pennsylvania is a commonwealth. So we say the commonwealth. It's not a, like Maryland's a state, Pennsylvania is a commonwealth. So we say it's the commonwealth's burden to prove this person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, regardless of whether the defendant testifies or even presents any of his own evidence. So, I mean, I guess that's how I kind of think about it.
So, Ryan, real quick, couple things. In the 28 years of this relationship between the three of us here, this has already been the most mature and boring conversation the three of us have ever had at one time.
Yep,
So
probably.
it's really crazy how quickly you've grown up and flipped the switch. And I'm not happy.
It only
Number
happened like
two,
last year, I'll say,
I know,
that
I
I
know. I
flipped the
mean, look, you
switch.
still don't even know how to shave. I mean, you shave as often as your father. And again, I tell you both, lean into the razor. The razor's your friend. Number two, do you ever, as a new attorney wannabe, do you ever go up and tell these attorneys that you watch, like, I would have done it this way? Have you done that yet? And how did that go?
No.
And then finally, we're so far ahead of where you are. I want to get back to how did you get to law and why law?
Right.
And
So,
not becoming a zookeeper, because that's really where I thought you were going
And
to go.
I want to add a thing as you tell your story that I'm somewhat curious in. You you're somewhat representative of the first generation who you don't just learn in school. You had abundant chances to learn on the internet also. So I want to hear about your early curiosity for learning and then how it was unique compared to old men like me and Matt.
right. So, two big questions. I'll try to answer as best as I can.
And if you could do it in
Um,
30-second sound clips, that'd be great.
oh,
Just like
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
dad.
I'll make sure you can post this.
Thank you.
So, I don't talk to attorneys about what I would have done differently because,
Okay,
like,
good.
I work for a judge. The judge is like not supposed to really critique this trial strategies. So when I was, you said zookeeper. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was like the first job that I thought would be cool because I really liked animals and I just thought that would be a cool thing to do. I'm allergic to cats and kind of allergic to dogs, so it probably wouldn't have worked out very well. Because I would have been allergic to most of the patients. But
What was your first pet? Like that was your pet?
my first pet was I think a green anole that I named Cosmo after one of the characters in Fairly Odd Parents, which is the Nickelodeon show that was on when I was a kid.
What about the fish who lived?
Well, the Fishy Lips was after.
Was he after? Okay.
Yeah, because I think I had two lizards. Cosmo died because we actually used bleach to clean his cage, which is a big, like they say you're supposed to use like a 10% bleach solution with water or something to clean reptile cages. That was a bad idea, so he immediately died. Um,
All
and
right.
then I had another lizard named Steve that I named after Steve Irwin. Um, and then I think I had a hamster at some point, but I had a fish tank. And this is what Ty was just talking about. Uh, with the fish who lived.
Daddy's fine.
So basically I had this like, it was like a 30-gallon fish tank or something. We had to clean the cage for the tank because it was really dirty. And it was so dirty that we had to, I guess, transport the fishes out of the tank and into like a plastic bucket basically or something. And when we were unceremoniously dumping the fish back in the tank with just no care. One of them, a big, like, I think it was an angelfish. One fell behind the tank, and then was just like out in the air for like, I mean, it was like 5 minutes or something.
It was 35 minutes. I timed it. It was crazy.
So far, Ryan has insulted the dentist industry, people that live in Ohio, and now we're gonna have PETA after us. Great, good.
That was mostly on Dad.
All press is good press, Ty.
In line with some of the house calls things is that we have these challenges, and this past month was the pet challenge. So you had all these pets, and now you have Tommy, your dog. How does Tommy help you with your life right now?
I mean, me and Matty, my wife, talk about all the time that like if we didn't have a dog, we would just be like sitting on our asses on the couch, just like not doing much at all, or like watching TV or something. Tommy, she is a 2.5-year-old mini Bernedoodle. She is full of spunk. That's one way to put it. It was actually funny. I texted Mary Kate when because I was wanting a boy dog because that's all I ever grew up with. Besides Dallas, but I was a baby. And Mary Kate was like, well, if you get a girl dog, they're basically the same as boys, but they have a lot more attitude and they will judge you for everything you do. And I was like, okay, whatever. And that is exactly what Tommy does.
Ask, is Mary Kate a girl dog?
Mary Kate is
she's got attitude and she'll judge you. And I love Mary Kate.
That's a girl. That's a girl dog does that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a girl dog. Her name is Tommy, so we try to confuse people about that. But she's very sassy. But I mean, dogs are, as far as the fitness aspect of it, since you guys love talking about that. I mean, I think you said this on a recent episode, actually. Just having a dog to get out of the house, is so amazing. Like Matty probably walks her more than I do, but that she likes to walk at lunch a lot, and I'm in a suit at lunch. I come home for lunch, but I'm in a suit, so I'm not going to walk. But I live right like a couple blocks from the river, the Beaver River.
Is it a Batman suit? I'm just trying to visualize what kind of suit this is. Just because you're supposed to, it always says you're supposed to dress for the job you want. I always told you, growing up, dress for the job you want. So what does your suit look like?
It's a suit and tie jacket thing, but I wear a Batman shirt underneath sometimes.
Okay.
Father like son.
So if I need to, I can rip it off and then have the Batman. Yeah.
Always have the confidence of a 3-year-old in a Batman t-shirt. Okay.
Yes.
Can we go back to the passion for learning and how that developed?
Wait a second. Wait. I'm serious. We gotta go back because this thing is all over the place. Because we were going about how you went from almost being a veterinarian.
Well, you guys keep asking questions and I'm trying to answer them, and then you're going off on all these tangents.
Hey, goddamn! This is you'll follow what we say, all right? I can edit this. I can make you.
I am his son, Matt. Like, I don't know what you expected.
I expected nothing less than long answers and goofy giggling.
You're definitely getting the goofy giggles.
Oh, I know that. No. But let's go back. So you were going to be a veterinarian / zookeeper, and then you realized you had allergies, and so then, but like your dad said, you've always been a learner. You've always done what you've wanted to do, and I've always respected that about you. So you did that, and now you're figuring out, you know what, maybe medicine is not for me. How do you get to law?
So law comes much later, I would say. I actually had a somewhat, well, I can start earlier about the learning stuff. So like Dad was kind of saying, my generation was kind of the first generation that really grew up with the internet, like I was born in 96, so I'm like kind of technically a millennial, but also Gen Z. I'm like right on the cusp. And I remember having like a super huge computer in like our basement growing up. But like once I got my own laptop and like I had got an iPhone probably earlier in life than I needed one, but I would I had access to the internet, so I would be able to, like, instead of going to a library or having to buy a book or whatever, I could actually just read up on things on my own. So really what kind of started it for me was partially, I would say, video games, actually. Because when I was, starting at like 8 years old, probably, I started playing, like, sounds so nerdy, but like history strategy games.
It does. You're right. No, it
Yeah,
does sound
it's
nerdy.
very nerdy. So I had a game that was Rome Total War, and it was, you played as like Rome or one of the like countries that was around at that time, and you'd fight battles and try to expand your empire, basically. But that got me interested in history in general. I had a book on Alexander the Great when I was very young, and I thought that, like, because he was the guy who lived in like 300 years before Christ, started in Greece and got all the way to India with his like campaigns, basically, and conquered the Persian Empire. I thought that I don't really know exactly what in my personality led me to being interested in that kind of stuff. I also had a book on William the Conqueror, who 1066 was a. This is where I actually learned what the word bastard meant at like 8 years old, because he was called William the Bastard when he was the Duke of Normandy. And then because he was a bastard, right? I don't remember the specifics, but like he was the bastard of his father, who was the Duke of Normandy. And he conquered England, became William the Conqueror. And then other just like kind of like, this is something that like in college I started kind of learning wasn't the best way to look at history. Is like the great man, the great people of history, like these single people who had such a huge impact, like Napoleon. I had a like Napoleon phase. It started in college, started learning that like it's less about the individuals and more about like the social movements and kind of like the cultures, right? Like I was never super interested in learning about, as a kid, about like the actual cultural, ways of how people lived. I was more just interested in these people who did these crazy things.
So, what was your major in college?
So my major in college was classics and ancient Mediterranean studies. My interest did not change that much, I guess,
Right.
in those 10 years. So I basically studied ancient Greece in college. I did a
Now,
archaeological dig.
is that where you felt? I mean, I know the country Greece, has a special significance to you and to your body art. Did that come from college? Was that always there because of the stuff you read as a kid?
That
And
was all.
I also want to say right here, right now, that we're talking about all this reading and things that you did. You did get outside. Okay, he
I
was
did.
outside a bunch. I saw him outside a lot. Brian is possibly one of the most well-rounded young individuals. Watched him growing up because, again, he had the lizards, he had the fish, he had the goofy dad, but he was a wrestler, played golf, he won a golf tournament one time, and did all these other great things. So you were
I did.
very well
I won
rounded.
a
But
golf
right now we're just
tournament.
talking about the education side.
I won a golf
I,
tournament, I think, with both of you,
yeah.
It
actually.
was just me. It was just me. Anyhow.
Okay, it was probably just Matt. Yeah.
So you have a passion for Greece, you have a passion for travel. I am going to comment on you. When you are passionate about learning something, you're going to learn everything you can about it. You've been like that your whole life. So it started with Thomas the
Hmm.
Tank Engine, went to Transformers, went to all the great rulers, went to Dave Grohl, kept going on through law, and you've had success. You made law review, but your passion is outside of just the classroom, as learning all ways. Was there any difficulty with, when you weren't interested in something, studying for grades? So other people, their passion is to get straight A's. That was not necessarily you. So if you had a bad professor, a bad teacher, or a subject that was just not of any interest to you, that was hard. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, completely. Like, I never had any interest in like math, and I was lucky enough that I did well enough in like subjects in school that I wasn't interested in. But like in college, like the requirements you just have to get. Like, I had to take a like general science class, and I took astronomy, and I did not do very well in that class. Let's say, just because it didn't interest me. But like what you're saying, when the things I was passionate about, like in high school, I knew a lot about history just because I liked the stories of it, I guess is the best way to put it. I wasn't interested in the actual like learning about the way it. I like the stories of the people in history, right? And I was a pretty big reader as a kid, so that kind of tracks. It was just like the real stories versus the fiction. But I definitely was super annoying to my teachers in the classes that I cared a lot about. Like I would when it was history and like the fourth time learning American history, I was always like, oh yeah, and here's this 10-minute explanation of this footnote in the history textbook that I think is interesting, but we're glossing over. So I'm just going to make us all talk about it, even though the teacher didn't really care enough to go into much detail about it. Other classes like the science classes, or which is kind of why I realized I shouldn't be a vet because I didn't really care about the sciences that much.
Do you like the stories about the lizards and where they came
Yeah,
from
yeah.
and their
Well,
society of lizards?
I like the like interacting with animals, and I like learning about the science on YouTube and stuff, but I don't like learning about the mechanics of it.
Right.
Like we definitely had to sit down, me and Dad, and like go over like the anatomy of a cell for like my biology class or whatever because I just didn't care.
Pivot to music. How'd you develop a passion? We got a lot of stuff we got to cover.
Yeah. So music, you guys talk a lot about like, what because we've talked about stuff that I'm passionate about, but music is what really like gets me through the hard times in life, I'd say, or just like the that's what I do at the end of the day to decompress when I've seen some stuff at work, right? I play with my dog or I'm not reading history books as my decompression time, I guess is the way to put that. So music, I got into music I really got into it when I was like 13. I started like actually just because I think I had a phone at that point, so I had my own like music collection on my phone, and I started taking guitar lessons. I'd taken guitar lessons before, but I didn't have again like the passion thing. I didn't care about it. I took guitar lessons when I was like 7 or 8, and I was learning like Home on the Range and like all these like just very basic boring songs that I didn't care about. But so when I started actually getting into music, my favorite band when I started was Green Day. So I just wanted to be able to play like Green Day on guitar. Like I remember I saw this video on YouTube of just this guy covering the Green Day song Holiday on his like he was playing it on his guitar. And I was like, that's awesome. I got to learn how to do that. And then in retrospect, Green Day is like some of the easiest stuff you can play on guitar. So it wasn't like super groundbreaking for me to learn it. But I mean, as Dad knows, when I got my first guitar lesson after I became interested in it, before I even had the lesson, I was on YouTube and looking up Marty Schwartz videos, who was like the guy. This is a joke in the guitar community for people my age, is that this guy had a ton of YouTube videos of tutorials of how to play different songs. And he basically raised like my generation of guitarists because he just had all this catalog of songs you could play. Um, so I started doing that. Now I really I've always been into guitar, but I really, really got into it very seriously. I mean, I don't do it professionally and I don't really play out or anything, but I got super into it kind of really like first year of law school because I lived alone at that point. I had an apartment, but I got an audio interface, which is just it lets me plug my guitar into my computer, and I got a audio like a guitar interface program on my laptop that let me just have a lot of different sounds and different amps and stuff like that, so I could kind of more match like guitar tone to whatever songs.
And that was
And that's what like got me through my first year, and that was during COVID, if that's what you were going to say. So I was living in a city that I'd never been to before I moved there. I was living in Pittsburgh and never been there before. The whole city was shut down. All of my law classes were on Zoom. So I spent most of my free time probably just playing guitar, and I definitely like improved my skill a lot in that time. And I mean, it's like fitness in a way. Like you have to maintain it. You have to keep the regimen up, or else you lose the chops. Like there's songs that I try to play. If I haven't played it for like a year, then it's definitely a lot sloppier. And so I've started getting into like more advanced stuff, and definitely you have to keep it up. But that's really like you guys have talked about in your previous episodes about like kind of flow state and like what really takes your mind off of like the stresses of life and stuff. And for me, that's definitely playing more than just listening. It's definitely playing, but just like putting on a song and playing along with it is really like there's nothing else going on in my head besides just like the listening to it and playing along.
So to Matt, to summarize it for you, picture you send your kid away. He's living in an apartment in Pittsburgh. totally isolated, and all he has is his law books, his guitar, his bearded dragon, and his ferret, Loki.
Yep. So the
And he
bearded
made
Where did we
it
go
dragon's
through.
still
wrong?
here.
He made it through a year basically of solitary confinement. Really, I mean, it's the
He's
guitar
almost
and
like a
the
grizzly man.
pets.
Like,
Yeah,
a
so it's
guitar.
guitar
Like,
and pets.
Yeah.
So can we pivot to mindfulness
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
your meditation practice? Because this is, we're just trying to, here's the deal, Ryan, just between you and me, we're trying to teach Matt, like, we're trying to make him better. We're trying to make a better Matt. So let's
I
hear
am
about your
too.
You're
mindfulness
gonna
practice.
have to have a lot more episodes until you get there, but
I heard that, and you're not wrong. And I'm for that. I'm trying to make a better Matt every day. That's my goal every day. Better Matthew for all.
that's my
And
goal every day. Make a better
thank you,
Matt.
thank you. Let's make Matt great again. Is what we're trying to do. But Ryan, before we do another one of your pivots, you're probably getting seasick from this. The interesting thing is that your music, though, I mean, your dad plays, your grandfather, I think both grandfathers, right? Play.
Dad does not play.
Well, but you can.
I dance and sing. I'm an excellent dancer and an amazing singer.
You're not God damn it. I will go right now. You're a great dancer. You're not excellent. You're not like.
Sorry. I didn't mean excellent. I meant enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic is true.
That's a music enthusiast. And
yeah. He totally is. Totally is. And he's got a
helps.
great recall. 100%. But I mean, do you think that probably helped along the way? Because again, and I say this, and I promise you, I say this in admiration. You've always kind of marched to your own drummer, right?
Yeah.
And you've done what you wanted to do. And
his own band. Some people march to their own drummer. He's like John Riggins. He marches to his own band.
Was my compliment? I was trying to. God, Ryan, don't worry, we'll cut that out. Anyhow,
but
yeah, I cannot wait. But anyhow, your grandfathers both played guitar, and your dad played the bongos. But so I think that probably helped as well.
It definitely did. I mean, like Dad. We had a guitar in the house, even though he never really touched it much. It was there, I think one of us ended up breaking it. I don't know who it was, but like one of us, because it was in a case, and then
probably Roddy.
we're opening the case
Roddy.
And it was just destroyed. Yeah, it probably was Roddy.
Yeah. All right.
Matt,
but yes.
You're gonna love this story. So I got a guitar in med school to play. I had taken some lessons when I was younger, and I started playing as a stress relief. And I played with your buddy, Dr. Klepper, and we were starting to get a little bit good. And then I took off during residency. I didn't have time to play. And then it wasn't until I started playing a little bit again, Ryan started taking a lesson. And after me playing off and on for 20 years, he was better than me after his first lesson. And I was like, maybe it's not in me. And a shout out to Ryan's guitar instructor, Nick Nagy, who was a lawyer. So he was a lawyer / guitarist.
Yeah. So, I mean, we never really talked about what got me into law, originally. But, I mean, yeah, like,
our editors are going to have so much work to do on this thing.
They are.
They're going to have to...
Very briefly on the lawyer thing, since that kind of came back up. I have attorneys in my family on my mom's side, or both of her siblings and her dad are lawyers. So I was always kind of like, that could be cool. But it really was kind of Nick who got me really interested in it, because our guitar lessons were very probably unusual compared to most people's, because we would play guitar, but then he would give me these like philosophy lessons and just like kind of ethics, like living. As we were just like jamming, he'd be like, okay, now I'm going to stop and I'm going to tell you about Plato's allegory of the cave. I don't really remember how that started or anything, but like I did my job shadow day with him. And it was funny too, because he was like, it was the first day in my life that I had been to downtown Annapolis and downtown Baltimore within like 2 hours of each other, because he practiced kind of all over. And I remember it was like, oh, this was cool. Like, thanks for letting me tag along with you for the day. And he was like, you realize this is not the typical lawyer's day, right? Like, I'm a lawyer, but like, he owned some properties that he was renovating in Baltimore and stuff like that. But what I was going to say earlier is that Dad was talking about on the origin story episode that he wanted to teach, and then went into medicine. I kind of had a similar thing where I wanted to maybe try to become like a college professor. And Matty kind of thought about doing that too. But my Greek professor in college was basically like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. He was like, you make no money. You have to move around the country and be pretty okay with just living wherever. And then he was like, if you want to do ancient Greek stuff, you have to learn not just Greek and Latin, but also French and German, because a lot of the like literature of the classics is in French and German also. And I was like, okay, do I want to learn four languages for a job that like is going to be not, I mean, it would be rewarding, sure, but like it's not very stable, I guess. So I decided to do law kind of, I guess, like late senior year of college. Thought going to law school, and like originally, I didn't even know if I wanted to actually practice law after law school, like because I know a couple people who like do JD advantage jobs, which are kind of just like you go to law school and you do non-law things that that it benefits you having a law degree, right? Um, so, but in law school, I got really interested in criminal law, basically, for a variety of reasons, but it's also just, I think, the most interesting, like day to day, you know. I didn't want to be stuck in in a law firm just looking at a computer all day and writing like, um, briefs for product liability litigation or something like that. So that's the spiel about about being a lawyer.
So can we learn about his meditation practice?
Yes,
Because
now we're on
Right.
track.
uh, I think you probably taught me, and I think we had Heron Dixon on who spoke a lot about meditation. So I want to hear from a younger person.
Yeah. So really started getting into meditation probably sophomore year of college because like the meditation apps were getting really big at the time. So like Headspace was the one I used for a while. I don't remember exactly like what made me think of doing meditation specifically. I mean, I was starting to kind of have like more anxiety and kind of some depressive episodes being in college and away from home. And, I don't do very well with like huge changes in life, which was kind of hard when I did 7 years of, college and law school, when every semester my life would basically be upended and changed. So I started getting into meditation kind of as a mental health thing, but also I was really interested I was always been super interested in like religious studies. So I don't know exactly where this started, but I had an interest in Buddhism. And I have no idea where I got this, but I started reading books about, like, I read a book called Buddha by Karen Armstrong that was more or less kind of like a biography of the Buddha's life and kind of just the basic tenets of like Indian Buddhism. So I got interested in that, and I was reading a lot of those types of like comparative religion books at the time. I started doing Headspace, the app, and I kind of on and off did it during college and after. Like, I definitely had periods where I was doing it every day and was pretty good about the routine. And then, like, I'd come home from college for the summer or whatever and would kind of drop it.
So Ryan, so you're in college, you're in a dorm room, you've got roommates. How is it like? What would you do? Like, what did that look like? Did you just like lay in your bed quietly, or did you find a spot to do it all the time?
I think well, so I started sophomore year. So sophomore year was the last year that I had a roommate freshman and sophomore year, and then I moved into the fraternity house junior and senior year, and we each had our own rooms in the fraternity house, so that wasn't an issue then. Sophomore year, I think just my roommate wasn't in the room much during the day, like he'd study at the library or something, and I was always somebody who would study like in the dorm room. Um, so I think I basically just like sat on my bed and like looked out the window, if I'm
Yep.
remembering right. There might have been a couple times where I actually just like went into the backyard of like, I lived in the arts house sophomore year, so I think I just went into the backyard of the arts house and like put a towel or a blanket or something down on the ground and just sat. But I was interested in like learning about the different traditions of meditation, and there's like a lot of different ones. Like, I think a lot of people, especially from the meditation apps, just kind of get into the mindfulness meditation, and then like Headspace. I think the guy who does Headspace was a Zen monk. So a lot of at least from what I've seen, right? A lot of meditation apps and a lot of like the secular mindfulness stuff is very influenced by Zen, because Zen, which is Japanese Buddhism, Zen is very kind of divorced from doctrine and stuff like that. So, like Indian Buddhism, kind of, and I'm not an expert in this at all. It's just a hobby. Uh, but Indian Buddhism has a lot more kind of like it's more focused on reincarnation and like the different Buddhist heavens and hells and like stuff like that. Zen is much more just about like making it applicable to your daily life here and not worrying about like what comes after kind of. So it's more about like bringing it into your daily life without concepts of the other like theological type of things, right?
So what benefit have you gotten from it, from your practice?
A lot. I mean, I think it really helps with my like stress and anxiety, tampering that down a little bit. I mean, it kind of it gives you purpose in a weird way because it's kind of purposeless. Like you can ask, sometimes you can ask like meditation teachers, like what is the point of meditation? And sometimes they'll give you like, well, it's good for mental health or like it has these like shown health benefits. But if you talk to like a Buddhist, like I went to a Zen center in Pittsburgh for started during COVID, so I did Zoom with them, but they would give like Dharma talks, which were kind of like sermons afterward, and they'd always kind of emphasize like there's no point to doing this. You sit and you just kind of like turn your mind off for a bit. Well, that's kind of like not exactly right. You're not necessarily turning your mind off, but you're focus it's learning how to focus on what you're doing at that moment. So like as somebody who grew up with the internet and has, you know, as you have said many times, has a computer in my pocket most of the time, has access to the whole world basically and all of like human knowledge that we've ever had. Sometimes it's a victory to just put that down, put your phone down, or put, you know, your access, stop scrolling Instagram or TikTok for 10 minutes, you know? So that's kind of like a motivator sometimes for me to just like actually sit on the cushion and meditate, is to just get away from all the distractions. And then it makes you more appreciative of like when you're going for a walk, like when I'm walking my dog, I'm like looking around and just admiring like, oh, that tree's blooming right now, you know, like it's starting to actually get nice here because I live in Western Pennsylvania, so I haven't seen the sun for like 6 months until last week. But it makes you much more appreciative of just doing your day. Like even sometimes chores become more enjoyable, you know, like doing the dishes. There's a Buddhist monk, he was Vietnamese, named Thich Nhat Hanh, who actually we basically plagiarized to write our wedding ceremony in November.
Thought so. I knew it. Knew
Yep.
it.
But so he had this thing where he's like he would just say like wash your dishes. Like don't be thinking about, oh, I have this thing at work that I need to worry about, or like this thing's going on in the news. He's just like, just wash your dishes. Just do that. Don't be concerned about anything else. Just invest yourself and your attention into what you're currently doing, which does also go into music for me. Like I read a book called Zen Guitar that was basically applying that to guitar and like saying like you don't, there's no point in, especially for me, like I'm not a professional musician, you know, I don't play in front of people, so there's no point in me even, it's not productive, right? Like it's not helping my career or something like that.
I love the way you just said the way they kind of blend together, the Zen and the music. Because I was going to ask you, is one more important at the end of a bad day, stressful day? Is that one more important than the other? But I like the way you just kind of put all that together and
Yeah,
just said, you know, you can combine both.
I love
right.
the quote. It was like, before I was enlightened, I chopped wood, and after I was enlightened, I chopped wood. Before I was enlightened, I washed the dishes. After I was enlightened, I washed the dishes. And I was starting to think that if I played golf, if I just thought about the golf swing and not like, oh, what's Matt going to say? Is he going to be proud of me? Is he going to make fun of me? Is he going to laugh at me? Is he going to
Yes.
come up with some bizarre rant about keep your head down? Maybe I'd be a better golfer.
Yeah,
So it's
I
my
mean,
fault.
I think that's exactly it. It probably
So
is Matt's
Shut up,
fault too,
Ryan.
but
so you were going to like that segue, because we speak to a lot of athletes, and I wanted
right.
to bring up something. Is I'm always asking people what they learned from life by playing sports. But this is different, is that I played sports my whole life. I coach sports. I'm a sports fan. And I have learned two very important things that I apply to my life from Ryan's sports career. And Ryan is my kid who is the least interested in sports.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting that I think I learned more from him than many other athletes I've encountered. And the first thing was when he started to wrestle. we're kind of from a wrestling family. My dad was a wrestling coach. I wrestled. Peter and Eric, my cousins, wrestled.
Your mom wrestled professionally.
Yeah, Ryan was somewhat exposed to wrestling, but I never pushed it on Ryan because Ryan was a scrawny little skinny kid. I was, times have changed. I was like, wrestling's a really hard sport when you're a skinny little guy. And then all of a sudden, Ryan's freshman year and sophomore year, he got a wrestler's body, and he basically had my dad's body. And his freshman year, he thought about going out for wrestling, but his sophomore year, he's like, all my friends wrestle, and he was basically doing it to hang out with his friends. So I'm like, man, this is going to be tough. You're starting wrestling. You don't know what you're doing. These guys have been wrestling for 10 years. You're going to get your ass kicked. And what I learned was Ryan got really, really good at 3 moves, and he had success. He was all conference his junior year, and he won Wrestler of the Year on the team his junior year and had good success his senior year. And what I learned was keep it simple. So in my practice and with some of the stuff that Matt and I do, trying to get people to be healthier, that is one of my major philosophies. Keep it simple, the way Ryan did. Ryan learned a move from the bottom, a move from the top, and 1 move on his feet. And that's all he knew. And that carried him through 3 years of wrestling with a lot of success, won a lot more matches than he lost, and he only knew 3 moves. And that's where some of the house calls challenges and stuff, I'm like, you don't have to run a marathon. You just need to walk every day, or you don't have to sprint
Keep it simple
all the time. You need to do some sprints, and I learned that keep it simple from Ryan. And then I have another comment from Ryan, but I talked too much. So I'm going to let Ryan comment on that. And then I will say my other thing.
Okay. But, before Ryan comments on that, I think you should also touch on his pre-match routine. I think that probably had a lot to do with his success.
So
where he would, yes.
Ryan doesn't probably even remember his pre-match routine, but I'm going to comment on it as well, is that wrestlers spend, 10, 15 minutes warming up, and they're bouncing all around, and they're doing push-ups and they're doing jumping jacks. And Ryan, his philosophy was wrestle and practice as hard as you can during that moment and let it go. And there were tournaments, and I remember specifically it was the semifinals of a tournament, and Ryan was literally asleep 5 minutes before his match. I see his teammates like bouncing around before their matches, and then finally I'm like, hey Ryan, you should probably get up, get ready. And he basically gets up and he's like, stretches out his arms, touches his toes. And I realized that he had no anxiety about it. Part of that was because he didn't care quite as much. But when he was out there, he went hard and he was never tired. It was not like, oh, Ryan would have won if he wasn't gassed. And I learned something there about life is like, don't waste all your energy on anxiety. Kind of try to, if you can, suppress that. And just when you're doing something, take action. So those are the 2 lessons I learned from Ryan's wrestling career that I still try to apply to my life today.
I'm glad I had an impact on your practice. I've never been a very competitive person, at least I might be competitive in arguing, which is a good career choice for me, probably being a lawyer based on that. But as far as skills, even music, or athletics, I've never been very competitive. So, I think my success in wrestling a lot of times was because my technique was so I didn't care about technique that much. So people would be so confused by me lumbering into the ring, or that they would kind of just be like, I don't know how to combat this guy's style because he doesn't have any I wasn't it wasn't like I had perfected the double leg takedown. That was one of my things I would do, but it wasn't when I'm kind of just bumbling along, it's hard to figure out how to counteract that, I think, in some ways. But I enjoyed it. I like the thrill of it, of the matches and stuff. But I didn't even most of the time know how many points there either me or the other guy had. I just always wanted the pin because I thought that was fun. So I just tried to pin everybody. And when I couldn't get the pin, I would lose very badly. But when I got the pin, it was awesome. I was like, this is cool, compared to my friends who were already on the wrestling team who were actually good. And, I'm not trying to disparage myself here, but I think because like what Dad was saying, a lot of times people in a lot of sports have been doing it since they were a kid, you know. And I did like some wrestling as a kid when my granddad on Dad's side uh, would do like wrestling stuff in Sherwood. Uh, yeah, I just kind of like I don't know.
So
I wasn't
my
I
other
wasn't
story, Matt, this shows how Ryan's mentality was. He was very good at pinning people, and he was in the semifinals of a regional tournament, and a guy was beating him like 8-3. Like the guy was dominating the whole first period, and then second period, the guy chose bottom, and Ryan, like wrestling's a serious sport. Ryan literally looked over to me and started laughing and then pinned the guy like in 10 seconds. And the guy had no idea because he'd been dominating Ryan and he had no idea that Ryan was good at this one thing. And Ryan did, like he was saying, kind of going out there goofy. He didn't realize that you're not really supposed to do that. You're not supposed to look over and laugh, but it will be something I never forget. And he wasn't laughing at the kid.
But that's just Ryan, right? He wasn't laughing at him.
Bad. The kid was destroying him. He was just laughing at the kid because the kid didn't know that he made a very bad decision, like starting a land war in Asia or something.
That's the thing, though, is that like for against anybody else, that kid made the right decision. Like you get more points if you start on bottom. You get more points from getting out and getting back on top, which is probably what he planned to do. But like I was just really good at like managing my weight on top of like the other guy. I think basically that I was just like, okay, I know this guy's not gonna be able to get up from me. I don't remember his size or anything, but like I was like, okay, this is kind of game over for him. Like I didn't know it was 8-3
and that's exactly right. Because Ryan, you are very humble, and you might say you're not very competitive, but you took it seriously when the light switched. You took it seriously and said, "This is I'm in the moment. This is what I need to do," and you did it. I don't know if that's competitiveness or just doing the right thing at the right time, but staying in the moment. And that's really what I always think.
I think it's different from. He's very much like his younger sister, but he's different than his older sister, who's the one who will throw over the beer pong table.
You have an older sister?
His younger sister, girl will throw over the beer pong table if she's down by 2 points.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like that's a good example too. Is that like even like if I'm playing beer pong, like not that I have much opportunity to anymore, but
whatever. You and Matty don't have a team. Come on,
husband wife, just every night playing against each other. But like I never cared. I was just hanging out, you know. In college, like we would have beer pong tournaments in my I was in a fraternity, you know. And there were other guys in my fraternity who were like, they were really trying to like improve our standing as a fraternity, like on the college campus, and trying to like get people, like different people, to come to the parties, or like trying to open up different doors with like other sororities or fraternities or whatever. I never cared. I was just like, I'm hanging out. Like if we
and
win,
you know what, your fraternity got
kicked
off. But I just had a rep. I had a rep in surgery who said your fraternity got kicked off campus. So maybe if you did care, they'd still be there. So now it's my turn. Any concert of any band that's ever existed, what concert would you choose to go to? And then what band would you choose to play guitar in if you got to play one song with them?
There you go.
Nirvana for sure for the first question. Because that's, a band that Kurt Cobain died 2 years before I was born, so that was never even an option. And I mean, maybe them or playing with them too, because their stuff, I know most Nirvana songs because they were like my favorite band for most of high school. So I could probably actually play with them without having to do a ton of like prep beforehand.
Could you teach Matt a little bit about what happened to their drummer after Nirvana?
So this blew Dad's mind when I was a teenager, but the drummer for Nirvana, Dave Grohl, went on and founded Foo Fighters, which they're still kicking after like 25 years.
Are you trying to whoa, are you trying to insult me right now?
I kind of figured you would know this because
it gets better. What other band is he in?
He's the drummer for Tenacious D. For those who don't know, Tenacious D is Jack Black and Kyle Gass.
Dave Grohl is from Northern Virginia.
Yes.
He likes
And he's the
Most
drummer
people
for the Muppets. He's
and the
Animal.
Muppets and Queens of the Stone Age for No One Knows that album. But I think most people your guys' age know that stuff already. I think you kind of missed that because you had 4 kids. And
That was my country music phase, so I can tell
yeah,
you anything you need to know about Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, including their advice. Don't let your kid be a cowboy. Make sure he's a doctor or a lawyer. So I think I did okay in Waylon Jennings' mind as a parent.
yeah. Well, you have one kid who still we'll see what he does, but
He could be a cowboy. Yeah,
he could be. But that one is more the Warren Zevon, send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this.
Yeah.
I do know Warren Zevon.
Also is great is that kid was was clearly in trouble if he needed lawyers, guns, and money. And who does he call? He calls his dad. No matter what happens, you can always call your dad. That's really a song about a son's respect and love for his father.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I'm taking you back to Greek. Let's say you're in the Roman Coliseum. It's a big wrestling match, and you were going to be wrestling. What's your walk outside when you have to wrestle Little Big Anderson?
Little Big Anderson.
What is your walkout song?
I mean, so what I was going to say is for my wrestling pre-match routine, I don't remember the sleeping. I mean, I'm sure that happened, but I remember most of my the way I would pump myself up is listening to Slipknot, who was like one of the first like modern metal bands I got into. I mean, they're 20 years old now, but so probably like this is not a song either of you guys are going to know, but probably like Left Behind, Slipknot.
Classic.
Yeah.
But also say something about like that. I guess it's called scream metal. And my attitude is I like Cat Stevens, so I'm kind of like, you're still young, that's your fault. But aren't the scream metal guys, aren't they like amazing musicians or technicians? Comment on that.
I would say like metal and like country have some of the best musicians or like guitarists specifically. But I would say that kind of about most genres of music, except for just like kind of like bubblegum pop or like, and even those, like you have to have some.
You're the Katy Perry fans. Thanks, Ryan.
The Katy Perry fans from 2008 are going to come out and attack me. But yeah, I mean, like most of them, there's some that are just bad, but that's true for any genre. There's bad musicians in anything. No, I think some metal musicians and like people have a idea of metal being very angry and just like hateful. That's not in my opinion, that's not true. It's a way of venting a lot of times. It's like getting out your like negative emotions in a healthy way by like getting them out in the music rather than, acting on them like in a way that would hurt other people.
Isn't there some study that people that listen to metal are more intelligent, or am I getting
We'll cut
that wrong?
this too. Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Yeah, this is after all about Zen Buddhism and everything else. Then you're supposed to listen to Slipknot. Yeah, it's something. It's not jiving, Ryan. So we'll cut this.
Last question. Dinner. 3 other people, fictional, alive, dead. Who are your 3 guests? Do not feel bad. Matt and I do not need to come. We'll walk by the table and make suggestions what you order. Make sure there's, but who are you? Yeah. And Matty's not allowed either. Who are your 3 people?
I would say Buddha, Jesus, and the third one I was having more trouble with. I knew you guys would ask this, so I was those 2 for sure. Bodhidharma. He was the guy who brought Buddhism to China. Maybe like Muhammad.
Was that show Greg and Dharma? That guy?
That's a reference that he would not know. That's like from the 90s, Matt. Come on.
Know.
That's when Dave Grohl was in Nirvana. Let's so Bodhidharma, Buddha, maybe Muhammad, and Jesus.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely Jesus and Buddha. The third, it depends on who's available, who's around.
Okay. My very last question, will Matty listen to this podcast?
I hope so. We'll see.
Ryan, give my love to Matty. You guys are the best. Loved spending this time with you. Loved you being able to share all of your interests with our growing audience. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me on. It only took like me asking 3 times, but I'm glad we got to it.
It was your grandmother who made it happen. So.
Okay. Wonderful talking to you two, gents, as always.
You too. All right. That was interview 2 of 4 with the House family. I'm sorry, 2 of 6. Actually, no, we've done you and Emma and now Ryan. So
Yes.
we gotta do Crooked Mouth and Roddy sometime soon. You think she'll like that?
No.
Okay, well we'll cut that.
Yeah.
Ty, you do a lot of things well. You really do. And raising 4 kids by yourself, you've done that really, really well because, all 4 of your kids are just great. I have so much respect, seriously, for Ryan because he did not do the typical Baltimore, Annapolis, lacrosse, path.
Yeah.
He was an athlete, social, did everything he wanted to do, but he did everything that he wanted to do, not what his world around him told him to do. And I've had nothing but respect.
We do need to clarify, although you were joking, clearly I did not raise him by myself. It was mostly his mom.
You're married?
Yeah. Remember the girl who told us all about you? Oh, this is before I brought you on as a co-host. Horses and Health with Ann Wiley House.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, it's definitely you and Ann, 100%. More Ann than you, but you guys have done such a great job with all 4 of them and their spouses and their pets and whatever Roddy has.
Okay.
That was good. Thank you for having Ryan.
Yep. All right.
All right, bud. Later.
Later.